What's hanging, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. I don't have a physical item to hold and show you what I'm reviewing today. I'm going to be talking about the TV series Twin Peaks, which is on Netflix. That's how I watched it. The whole series is on Netflix. A while back, we were told that we were going to be getting a season 3 of Twin Peaks, and that kind of renewed some interest that I had in watching that show. And I guess I should start at the very beginning. A while back, this was probably 2 years ago, I started watching Twin Peaks, and the first season is only 6 episodes long, and then season 2 is like 22 episodes long. And I started watching Twin Peaks, and about 4 episodes into season 1, I said, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. So I stopped watching it. I really wish that I had finished season 1 the first time. I might have been more inclined to finish the series the first time if I had just finished season 1. But I didn't. I didn't finish watching it, and then much later, whenever they announced that they were going to do a season 3 or a mini-series, it's a sequel, it's not a reboot, I know that much. When they announced they were doing that, I was like, hey, I want to try and watch Twin Peaks again, and I did. And this is a very weird series to try and talk about. It's very hard to try and explain what it is. The series starts with a girl named Laura Palmer who has been murdered, and she's dead before the series even begins. If you've read The Watchmen, it's kind of like The Comedian, how he's dead before the story begins, but then throughout the story you find out more and more about the comedian. It's the same with Laura Palmer. You find out more about her as the series progresses, and basically, it happens right on the county line, so that means it's not just a matter for the Twin Peaks Police Department, also the FBI have to get involved. And so that's where we get Kyle MacLachlan, who is kind of our point of view character, but if you watch the pilot episode, which is like movie length, he doesn't even come in until like halfway into the episode. So if you are put off by the pilot episode, I would recommend at least give the series till the end of the season to decide if you're going to be put off. But anyway, so we start finding out more and more about Laura Palmer. We find out what she was like. She wasn't exactly what some of the people in town say that she was like. Some people say that she was a goody two-shoe, and that she was a cheerleader and a prom queen, and that she started the Meals on Wheels program. But then you find out she also had drug problems. She had sex with 3 dudes on the night that she died, and she did a lot of other stuff. She was involved with this guy who committed murder. There's a lot of stuff going on with this character, and you've got a huge cast of characters. Like, I'm not kidding, probably 25 characters or so that are in and out of this series. Some of them, they've got strong ties to Laura Palmer. Others, they don't have nearly as strong ties to her, and so they've kind of got their own stories going on. And when you have a series with this many characters, naturally, some of them are going to be very interesting, and some of them are not. I liked characters like Agent Dale Cooper, played by Kyle MacLachlan. I liked him quite a bit. Audrey Horne, I liked her once I got to know her a little bit. When the show first started, I really didn't have a good read on her, but I liked her as the series progressed. Characters I did not like. I did not like James or Donna. They were Laura's best friends, and James was technically dating Laura, even though publicly she was another guy's boyfriend. And then as soon as Laura dies, James and Donna start dating each other. I really couldn't stand those 2 characters. And then you've got other characters, Norma and Ed. I liked them okay, but a lot of their story was kind of just them deciding if they wanted to cheat on their respective spouses and be with each other. And that was kind of, it got old after a while. There was a lot of characters in this show. Some of them I liked, some of them I really did not. Some of them I came to like, or I used to like, and then I stopped liking. There's so many characters, it would take me forever to try and just list all of them and tell you which ones I liked and which ones I did not like. As far as the story of this series, like I said, it starts off being a murder mystery, but then you find out there is a lot more going on here than just a girl who has been murdered. And if you just watch the first episode, you're not really going to get a good glimpse of this, but there's actually a lot of supernatural bizarreness going on in the show. And like I said, the first episode, you would just think, okay, this is kind of a weird CSI type show where someone gets murdered and you don't find out who the bad guy is, who the murderer is by the end of the episode. You find out that there's this evil spirit named Bob, and he is the actual killer of Laura Palmer. He's the one, I think we find that out very early, that he has possessed somebody who killed Laura. Now, the police department, they are actually trying to find the physical body of the person who killed Lara, and we start to find out more and more about the supernatural side of things. We find out that there's this place called the White Lodge, and we find out there's another place called the Black Lodge, and there's the Red Room, and there's this character, they just call him the Midget, who dances, and he lives in the Red Room. And then we've got this giant who only Agent Dale Cooper can see, and he gives Agent Cooper all of this key advice throughout the series. And Bob is kind of this evil, if you've ever seen any Stephen King story where there's an evil demon presence that lives in a small town, that's basically what Bob is. And then you've also got Mike, who's kind of sort of Bob's opposite number, except that Mike isn't entirely noble either. We really don't know what Mike is up to. We just know that he's trying to stop Bob, and so at one point he's helping the police department. And if you've ever watched Lost, you know you've got Jacob and the Man in Black, and they're supposed to kind of be good and evil, except that Jacob wasn't really that good, and the Man in Black, he had some really valid points for doing what he was doing. It's sort of like that, but again, not exactly. If you remember, I had some complaints about Lost where I said that they should have either gone one way or another. They should have had Jacob be the pure ultimate manifestation of all things that is good, and then you should have had the Man in Black be the ultimate evil. But they didn't do that. They kind of half-butted it on both fronts. And they kind of sort of do that here, where Bob is the ultimate evil. He has absolutely no redeeming qualities. He's very crazy, very savage, very evil. He kills quite a few people in this series. And then you've got Mike, who he's not the complete opposite of Bob. He's kind of just... he's helping the police department, but we really don't know why. And it takes like 30 episodes, and over the course of 30 episodes, you would think we would have had a little bit more time to explore this character of Mike and find out why he's doing what he's doing, but we never do. And I should point out, there is a movie that's kind of a prequel, kind of not. I haven't seen the movie. It's called Fire Walk With Me, and apparently it is supposed to chronicle the last week of Laura Palmer's life. And it does that, but it also shows a lot of other stuff that's going on in Twin Peaks, and it even shows you a little bit of stuff that was going on during the series after Laura Palmer died. I haven't seen Fire Walk With Me. Maybe I'll try to watch it sometime in the future. It's not on Netflix, so I didn't watch it when I was watching the series. But I would say I'm going to go ahead and spoil a little bit of stuff. Not really spoilers, not hard spoilers, just kind of tell you about certain plot points that get resolved. I'm not going to tell you how they get resolved, but the murder of Laura Palmer, that gets resolved halfway into Season 2. About halfway in, I assume it was the mid-season finale, we find out who was used to kill Laura Palmer, and I'm not going to tell you who, and then that gets kind of wrapped up. And then for the rest of the season, it's basically a whole bunch of filler. Everything that happens after we find out who killed Laura Palmer, all of that is basically just filler. We find out that Dale Cooper has a little bit of a dark past, where the FBI agent who mentored him, it turns out that he's a psychopath, and Dale Cooper had slept with his wife, and then the psychopath killed his wife, and that guy comes to Twin Peaks, and we find out that he's connected to the Red Lodge, or the Black Lodge, whatever, and a lot of the stuff that's going on after we find out who killed Laura, a lot of it, almost all of it, is just completely filler. It's like they realized once they told us who the killer was that they didn't have a hook for their show anymore. And so they tried to just string us along with all of these stories that weren't especially good. And then, like, in the very last episode, it's like, oh yeah, we've got all of this supernatural stuff that we could have been exploring this whole time. So then they bring back the midget, and they bring back the giant, and they bring back the Red Room, and they bring back Bob very briefly. And they do a lot of weird stuff in all of the supernatural stuff, and I feel like they should have been spending more time exploring the supernatural instead of doing all these side plots that were basically just killing time. You may be wondering, why didn't I just review this season by season like I do other shows? Well, like I said, the first season is only 6 episodes long, and season 2 is 22 episodes long. So I feel like if I had done 2 videos, one video would have been really short, and the other video would have been a lot longer. And also, not a whole lot is really resolved in season 1. If you just watch the first 6 episodes, there's a lot that happens, but you don't really get any resolution to any of the storylines that are going on in season 1. So really, it's almost like one gigantic season that is like 30 episodes long instead of being one season and then another season. If you take out a lot of the fluff that's at the end of season 2, especially, it feels like it's one massive movie with a huge cast of characters, and it just takes like 30 hours to watch it all. That's why I didn't want to do a video on season 1, because I wouldn't have really had anything to say, because there's not a whole lot that you can say until you have some of the resolution and the revelations that come in season 2. Also, I do want to talk about the tone of the series. Sometimes it tries to be funny, and a lot of times it even succeeds. There's some stuff in this series that is genuinely funny. Also, it tries to be about a girl who was murdered, who has a past as a prostitute and a drug dealer, and a lot of that is very serious and very dramatic, and it doesn't really... Sometimes it works where we're going from the really serious to the really funny, and then sometimes it really does not. Also, this show is basically a parody of soap operas. Like I said, you've got a huge cast of characters, and normally what you would do in a TV show, in a given season, you would have each character kind of has a thing that they are doing in that season. And then the next season, they might do a different thing. It's kind of like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In season 5, her thing was being a big sister. And then in season 6, her thing was kind of getting used to the real world and finding out that sometimes life is the big bad and you don't have an actual big bad to be the big bad. Each season, each character has a different thing. Well, Twin Peaks kind of fast tracks that. Instead of having Audrey Horne do a particular thing in one season, such as be an informant for her father trying to find out information on the entire town or whatever. That's not something that she does. I'm just using that as an example. Instead of having her do that for a season, they might have her do that for 3 or 4 episodes. And then they might have her go to work for another guy and be his right-hand man, and he's a rival to her father's company or something like that. And then at the end, they might have her do something else that's completely and totally different. And so you've got these characters. It doesn't really feel like they are going through organic changes. It really just feels like the people making this show said, hey, we haven't really shaken things up with Bobby or with Audrey or with Donna. We haven't really shaken things up with them for a while, so we need to do something really crazy and melodramatic to make them go in a completely new direction. And they'll do that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. For example, near the end of season 2, Bobby starts working for Audrey's father, and he is more interesting then than he ever was in season 1 as kind of sort of a bad guy, and for a good bit of season 2. And so some of these changes, they work a lot better than others. And like I said, since there's so many characters in this show, I really don't want to just go through each character and talk about what they went through in this show. And maybe if this video was like 30 minutes longer, I could do all of that. I could really dissect the show and analyze it. I don't really want to do that unless very, very far in the future I decided that I wanted to rewatch this show and analyze each episode by episode. Even then, though, I don't think that I really want to do that. This is a series... I would recommend that you watch the first season. If you don't like the first season, you're probably not going to like season 2 either. It's not a show that you're thinking, well, I didn't really care for season 1, but maybe it gets better. Probably not. But you do, if you watch the first episode and you decide you don't like that, I do recommend that you keep watching, because it begins to find itself a few episodes in, and it just takes it a little while. And that's the same with any series. It starts off kind of slow. It doesn't really know what kind of series it wants to be. It takes it a while to find out what kind of series it wants to be, and that's the same with Twin Peaks. That's about all I have to say here. This is a very weird show. I'm still not sure if I can really recommend it to anybody, or who I would recommend it to. Maybe if you're a fan of David Lynch, who's one of the co-creators of the show, maybe I could recommend it to you then. But other than that, I really don't know who I would recommend this to, because some people have said it's very similar to The X-Files, and this is a predecessor to The X-Files. It's not really like The X-Files. This show has a lot more humor in than The X-Files did, and the resolution to the big series arc comes a lot sooner, naturally, because The X-Files is like 9 seasons long in 2 movies, whereas Twin Peaks was 2 seasons long in a movie, but it's really not like X-Files, at least not what I've seen. And a lot of people have said that it's kind of similar to the cartoon Gravity Falls, which I love. Gravity Falls is a lot more sensical than this is. This is very different than Gravity Falls, but I can also kind of see some of the similarities. It's really hard to explain this series. I would say no matter who you are, give it a shot. You might like it, you might not. Just watch the first season. That's only 6 episodes, and nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? That's all I have to say about this series. I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe on my channel for more videos. And that's all I have for this week, except for a review of an episode of Batman the Animated Series at the end of the week. And then I will see you guys next week with some more videos. So, until then, catch you guys later. Have a great rest of the day.